Welcome back to It's a Yes, Making It a Media, the podcast that really gets under the skin of commercial media careers and what it takes to succeed. I'm Jo Wood, MD of the Media Exchange.
And I'm Debra Sharon, founder of Media Sales Training. Today we're diving into one of the most dynamic, buzzing areas of media sales right now, events. Whether it's filling a conference hall with delegates, selling exhibition stands, or landing that headline sponsorship deal, events sales is a world of its own.
And here's the thing, while some parts of media have had a bumpy few years, live events have come roaring back post-pandemic. People want to meet, and that means the people who can sell those experiences are more in demand than ever.
So today we're going to unpack, what does this world actually look like? Who are the big players? What are the trends shaping the market? And crucially, what skills do you need to absolutely smash it in event sales? We're delighted to be joined in this episode by Colin Ennis. Colin is the Divisional Sales Director of Events and Online Marketplaces at emap, and we'll be hearing from Colin later on. So, Jo, as usual, I want to start this episode by asking you some do you know questions about the size of the events business in the UK. How much do you think that the UK events industry is currently worth to the economy generally?
No idea, Deborah, but I'm sure you're going to tell me.
Well, the latest stats would suggest about £40 billion.
Really?
Which is extraordinary, isn't it? What about how popular it is for B2B buyers to attend industry events?
Yeah, I read somewhere that they actually attend between 3 and 5 industry events a year. That's an awful lot, isn't it? So time consuming, but it obviously must be very important if they do allocate that amount of time to attend these things.
And what about sponsorship spend? What do you think that's doing at the moment?
Another one I think you're going to share with me.
Well, it makes me sound like I've got all the answers, but I've just got a very good set of stats in front of me. It looks like the sponsorship spend just on UK events has grown by between 15 and 20% year on year.
That makes it a really attractive proposition, doesn't it, for a salesperson, if you're starting out in your career and you know that these things are so popular.
Yeah, I think it's very encouraging when you can see that there is a lot of money being spent on sponsorship, that sellers can feel that they're going to have a very well-received conversation.
So COVID was a nightmare for the events industry, wasn't it?
Do you remember how quickly, though, big events companies reinvented themselves? It was extraordinary.
Yes, everybody seemed to suddenly understand what a Zoom event might look like.
Well, it just demonstrated that people still wanted to have the networking. They still wanted to learn about what were the new trends in their industries. And the organisers of events were incredibly creative in being able to migrate the experience into online environments where there were networking opportunities as well as learning opportunities. But I think what perhaps is interesting is that actually human beings like to see each other and they like to be in the same room. So what we're talking about at the moment, Jo, is kind of conferences. I suppose when we think about events, we're not thinking only about conferences. We're going beyond that into selling exhibitions, curated meetings. You know, it's become a much broader set of different opportunities than perhaps the core events that existed before the pandemic.
It most definitely has, yeah. And I think that that's created a whole load of new avenues for advertisers, yeah, to reach different parts of the audience that attend a particular event or exhibition, as you said.
Yeah, I was with a company recently and they were saying that many of their clients value the networking and the coffee breaks almost as much as the main event itself. It's the opportunity to meet people and to engage in a human conversation that is as important as what else is going on in the space. And the annoying question that I often ask people in sales training is, what is it that you're actually selling? And whether you're selling an event or you're selling a magazine or you're selling an audio solution, what you're actually selling is a connection for an advertiser to talk to an audience.
For people embarking on a career in this area, where are the starting points? How do you see somebody getting into it?
Well, the junior people that I come across is either in delegate sales, where you come in to fill the spaces. So you can imagine if you're selling the sponsorship of an event, the sponsor is going to want to know, well, who's going to be in the room? So you've got to have a team of people who are focused on making sure that the event is populated and attended by all the right people. So a delegate sales team, and we'll hear more from Colin later, are a group of hungry salespeople who are not afraid to be pitching at scale to organisations, encouraging them to send their people along to an event or an awards or an exhibition.
So that sounds like a really good place to me for somebody to cut their teeth in a sales role.
Yeah, I think delegate sales and exhibition space are probably what I would view as being the equivalent of the classified sales teams of the past, of yesteryear. Organisations do really well to bring in new talent at that entry level and then grow good sellers who can then extend their responsibilities across different parts of the event space.
But I think if you're going to utilise the skill set within the events area, the next and most exciting thing is either going to be selling exhibition stand space, so bigger corporate companies, or, as you say, the sponsorship of an awards or an event or a conference, which is about identifying the right kind of companies that would be interested in doing that. And there are some really amazingly creative opportunities within that space, because we were talking to a consumer event recently where they had people who do offer flower arranging classes inside an event. So there can be heaps of different things that you think about that a business might be interested in sort of engaging with an audience that's attending.
And when you're talking to candidates about perhaps entry-level roles in events, I would imagine that the opportunities to travel and attending the events themselves is quite an attractive proposition for somebody who's relatively early in their career. Well, I was with a company recently working with some brand new starters, and they had been learning through their media pack. They were excited about the role, but they could see it was a little bit perhaps dry because they couldn't identify with the market. And then, as it happened, their event took place. And I saw them the day after they'd come back from the event, and they'd been in Birmingham at the NEC, and they had visualized and experienced for themselves the energy and the adrenaline in the room. And they were buzzing, and they felt that actually anybody selling exhibition space should be allowed to go and visit an event before they perhaps embark on selling that event, because it just brings the whole thing to life. So should we have a quick chat about the skills that perhaps are going to be most useful if you're thinking about building a career in selling events?
Absolutely. So entry level, those are the kind of age-old criteria that we've always looked for. You don't need any very specific experience. What you need to be able to show is the excitement, enthusiasm, tenacity, competitive nature, resilience, anything that demonstrates that actually you're designed and able and up for a career in sales. And those are the kind of things that we've been looking for the last 30 odd years.
They really are. They're critical skills, because in a digital age, as we've talked about before, sometimes hard to create urgency and get a close because there's no such thing as a final deadline. I think in event sales, it's the complete opposite, because there is a deadline and that deadline is not going to move. And so how you manage the sales cycle is very different in event sales to maybe any other media channel that I can think of.
Just going back a little bit, Deborah, it really is quite a unique thing, isn't it? To attend an event and see your clients at the event. Yeah. And actually, it's one of the few sales roles where you can literally shake hands with the buyers face to face, and often several times a year.
And I think from a skills perspective, that's really important, because you actually need to have your face-to-face skills as strongly in place as perhaps your telesales and your emailing skills. You're being able to bring everything together. Networking at events is an art. How do you approach people at an event and start a conversation? How do you exit a conversation if you know that it's time to move on? How do you walk up to a client of yours who is exhibiting at your event? They are there to try and sell more of their wares to their customers, but you want to approach them perhaps to seed the idea of how they can continue spending with you. Getting the balance right in those kind of conversations, I think, really does take some skill.
What do you think is the most important part of that?
I think reading signals from people, and to be able to understand through emotional intelligence how to manage yourself in that conversation. And we haven't really touched so much on the selling of sponsorship of events, but that probably is worth us having a conversation around. Are you seeing more and more roles around selling sponsorship?
Loads. It's definitely up and coming and growing, and sponsorship, promotional opportunities, creativity, anything that gives an exhibitor or somebody attending or a business or company engaged with the space something unique.
Yeah, and I think it's much more now than a badging exercise. Companies want more than just to see their logo above the door. They're looking for a lot of ROI, they're looking for metrics, they're looking to be able to be involved with an event in the months preceding the event, in the weeks post event. They're looking to really find creative solutions around all the different touch points with the audience that may or may not actually be attending the event.
The other part of that is the social media thing. So you can have a sponsoring arrangement that includes, as you say, data gathering, socials. There's so many actually, the whole digital thing has enabled people to utilize the data information that they get from this kind of event in a very different way.
Yeah, and I think just from a day-to-day sales point of view, being able to articulate all of this in a really concise proposal is one of the big challenges that salespeople face. How do they distill that in a written communication piece that is going to travel across a potential sponsor's decision-making unit?
So I think that the most sort of important thing that we've cemented today is what an exciting opportunity it is to move into this area, and how you can actually really build a very successful career.
100%. Just to let you know, if you want an easy way to remember and apply the ideas from today's episode, we've got something to help. Head over to makingitinmedia.com and sign up for our newsletter. After every episode, we'll send you the key insights and practical takeaways that you can use to help you get hired, stay inspired, and build a successful career in media. That's makingitinmedia.com, and the link's in the show notes. So, Jo, we've got a whole load of listeners' questions that have come in around selling events. And I'm pleased to say that we're joined by Colin Ennis, who is the Commercial Director, Events and Online Marketplaces at emap. Well, it's great to have you with us, Colin, because having run a very large delegate sales team, we're really interested to understand that in a world where young people coming into the media space might be looking at lots of different options, why delegate sales? What is it that makes that such an exciting place to start?
Delegate sales doesn't always seem to be the flashy part of media, right? But actually, it's probably one of the most commercially powerful. I think one of the things that makes it attractive is the immediacy of impact. So you're not waiting months for ROI. You can literally see conversations turn into revenue in real time. For people coming into media, especially younger talent, that feedback loop is really engaging. We've also worked hard to modernize what the role looks like. It's no longer about volumes and scripts. And so it feels much closer to modern marketing strategies than traditional sales.
So when you're sitting there with an interview prospect, for instance, there's somebody who's considering how to start their career, what is it that you can say that makes them think, wow, this is a really exciting proposition, rather than some of the kind of cooler social kind of spaces that they probably have in their head when they start looking?
The development path. And I think that, especially in young people at the moment, development is key. We've built a sales academy that runs continuously. The development doesn't just sit, with management. It actually sits with the people doing it. They're learning AI prospecting techniques. They're learning negotiation skills, social selling, objection handling, but from the peers who are actually using it to win business right now. So people can move from, exec to senior roles to senior leadership or leadership roles fairly quickly. So again, sort of those key skills that again they're learning in delegate sales have meant that we've had people very early in their careers quickly become some of the strongest performers in the business.
You run an award-winning team, so clearly it's a really good place for people to start their careers. Interesting maybe for our listeners to understand how you found yourself in this space, Colin.
I don't think anybody, wakes up in the morning and says, okay, I'm going to be in media sales. I don't think that's how we end up here. I originally wanted to be a primary school teacher. I'm essentially doing the same thing. I'm taking young minds and basically developing them. And then I've got them for a term or a year, and then I move them on. How I originally got here, I think I was working in a bar at the time, maybe 18, 19. One of the patrons of the bar was a sales director. I was always complaining to her I wasn't getting enough hours. And she's like, well, what would you do if you weren't doing this? I was like, I have no idea. And then she said, have you got a suit? I said, yes. And then that was like on the Friday. And then I started working sales on the Monday.
That really is how most people started off, Colin. And actually, I think there's a massive amount of value in starting off in the kind of sales environment that you obviously did. Yeah, okay. And it enables people to, as you say, train and develop much more quickly. The challenge is always to persuade them to start off in that space in the first instance. Yeah.
Colin, we've had a listener
Mm.
question asking about the core qualities that you look for when you're building your team. So when you're recruiting, what is it you're actually looking for?
So in regard to the backgrounds of some people that have done really, really well, I've had everything from a scaffolder to a pastry chef to a hotel concierge to somebody coming straight out of uni to an Australian battle rapper, right? So background-wise, I don't genuinely think it matters. I think the key theme running through all of those people, they were all willing to come outside of their comfort zone. With that, they were all coachable. Have they had an experience, whether that be a parent, an auntie, an uncle, a mentor, a tutor, a rugby coach, a dance instructor, whatever it is, where they've been told to do something that's outside of their comfort zone and they think's not going to work, but they've done it anyway and it has worked. If they can't give me one of those examples, I don't hire them. Because what I'm going to ask them to do eventually is do something outside of their comfort zone. And when I can see them pull a face or grimace, or I know they don't want to do it, I will refer back to that example I used in interview, and that will get them to do it. And I find it's those examples and knowing that coming out of your comfort zone actually is where you develop and where you grow. And it's those people willing to consistently, okay, yes, you can get very comfortable doing your job and you can become very good at it, but it's always being able to push that one step further.
So, Colin, we've had a question in from one of our listeners around how can a delegate sales exec develop their career working in this space with you?
I've had somebody who was a visual merchandiser and they were on the delegate sales side and they loved selling conferences. They really understood the reason why the clients should attend, what the return on investment was, especially from a content perspective. They left my team to then work on the production team. So they were then producing the content themselves because they had a good relationship with the speakers. They then eventually understood that market and that industry to then go and create their own events company. And they now are a CEO of their own events company who has been up for, bearing in mind, they started in delegate sales in my team. Now the company they own has been up for awards, even in last year's PPA awards, etc. So that's a good example of starting out in delegate sales, moving in, understanding content, moving into production, understanding production, then creating your own events company around that, and then being up for an industry award just from starting in my team.
That's amazing. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So when you think now, every media channel that you come across is looking to add an event specifically for their audiences. Why do you think events have really become such a sort of valued media addition?
I think one of the things that's changed, or one of the things that's important, especially in 2026, is attending events is no longer just about visibility. It's about intelligence and positioning. Yes, there are obvious benefits, networking, brand presence, business development, but increasingly attendees are using these events to understand market direction in real time, what buyers are prioritizing, what competitors are doing, what budgets are shifting. And we see awards specifically becoming much more important for credibility and talent attraction. We know there's a war for talent in many markets, right, where people have against choices. So it's in a competitive hiring space, being recognized externally is now a real differentiator for organizations. Events can now act as, a shortcut to trust.
And awards seem to be an area that has expanded enormously in the last few years. Do you see that trend continuing, or can you see any differences down the track in terms of what the events and the awards that you sell might look like in the future?
It's really important for people to be recognized, and people want to be recognized for the hard work, again, sort of they do. Internally, from what we're looking at, is more robust, super credible, and more importantly, transparency in the judging process. Regardless of the size of the organization, it's about, how you meet the criteria, whether you're a 2-man band or, 1,000 people organization. How credible are they, and how transparent is the judging process? As the market gets more saturated with various awards, I think they're going to be the key things that make particular awards, again, sort of stand out.
It's so important, isn't it? Because you're right. Yeah, I mean, I've always been somebody that thinks that, if you put in an entry and you're a loud noise and you win something, that doesn't necessarily reflect how good you genuinely are. And you want, as you said, credible judging panel, so that if there's something to be won, it's a really worthy thing to have.
Well, our signature question, Colin, that we always like to ask any of our experts is whether you can identify what your best yes yet has been. So our podcast is called It's a Yes. We're keen to know what your best yes has been to date.
There are a few, but there's, I suppose, one, that stands out. And I would say it's the evolution, it's the evolution of the team culture itself. I know that we made a deliberate shift to transition from top-down training to peer-led, like Sales Academy, where the team actually teaches each other what's working in real time. And that yes moment was when we saw it directly translate into performance. So that's breaking company records, launching events successfully, outperforming other divisions whilst bucking industry trends. So that's probably, again, it's that team culture shift that I'm a big believer in. Is probably
yes, it works.
Yes, it works, and yes, the team are getting something out of it. Yes, the team or the business is benefiting, but also more importantly, these potentially younger career individuals are also getting the development they want and needed. When they ask me, "Can I get this by coming under your wings, Colin?" I said yes, and they're getting that yes.
I think that's amazing. And I also think the passion and enthusiasm and excitement you have for the team that you lead and the division that you run is really amazing. And I'm sure will encourage people to go into the sector without doubt.
Yeah, it's something that, again, I think it comes from just wanting to be a school teacher. I think it's just having that's it. It's the same mentality. I've only got these people for a very short time. And I genuinely want to see them develop.
I think the primary school sector missed out, Colin.
Yeah, I might fall back in it one day. You never know.
I doubt it. Thank you so much, Colin. It's been inspirational talking to you, and you've shared some really valuable insights.
Brilliant. No, thank you for having me.
Our Yes List recommendation this episode is the Harvard Business Review Guide to Smarter Networking. If you've ever walked into a networking event feeling nervous, awkward, or unsure how to make meaningful connections, this is the book for you. The HBR Guide to Smarter Networking is your go-to playbook for turning networking from being a dreaded obligation into a powerful skill. When you've read this book, you'll learn how to start conversations with ease, even if you hate small talk, build genuine connections that go beyond surface-level exchanges, follow up strategically, and leverage networking to open doors for your career growth and future opportunities. What makes this book so valuable is that it's not just theory. It's packed with practical, actionable advice from Harvard Business Review experts. No fluff, just proven strategies that work in real-world settings. I'd recommend it because it's fully backed by research, so you know the advice actually works. It's concise and easy to apply, and it really will boost confidence to help you walk into any room feeling fully prepared. The link is in the show notes. It's the HBR Guide to Smarter Networking.
Thanks for listening to It's a Yes, Making It in Media.
Do follow the show and share it with someone who's serious about getting results in their media career.
Send us your questions to hello@makingitinmedia.com.
We're running a live and interactive Zoom training workshop very soon. The links are in the show notes.